Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Prodigal Son, a great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, we see Malcolm at the beginning trying to relax, and obviously it seems like he's doing yoga poses and stuff like that, but it doesn't seem like it's working. His mind's still kind of flooding with stuff, whether it's stuff related to John, stuff related to his dad. And I was wondering, I was like, oh, is this him like right after his vacation? It's like, nope, he hasn't gone on a vacation yet. Jessica shows up, gives him a suit and everything, nice white suit, even has Gil driving him to the airport, and then it's like, I was like, oh, how is this going to get interrupted? Because I was like, because I thought it would be interesting if the whole episode was like, Malcolm is away and then he kind of helps solve a case or something, but nevertheless, they hear something come over the radio. He's like, come on, come on. It's like right on the way. He's like, fine, but we're only going so I can make sure that everyone sees you in a suit. So literally JT's got jokes, Danny's got jokes, even Adrisa's got jokes. I even love the whole situation. There's even this cool moment where like JT's kneeling down, like the murder weapon. It's a dude, he's a former, the first victim's name is Connors. Like the weapon that was used against him was like an old-fashioned like gun, and it's like JT's listing off a whole bunch of stuff. He's like, oh yeah, it's kind of a good weapon for pirates. And then Malcolm adds some tidbits, and he's like, I know all this stuff because it's like I've got two of them. And JT kind of raises his eyebrows like, oh whoa. So it's like it was this interesting bonding moment. I thought was kind of neat. That it was just kind of it was there and it was just kind of going. But I was like, oh, that's so neat. But nevertheless, it seems like the fact of the matter is this murder is kind of in reflection to the Count of Monte Cristo. It's actually it's a story that Malcolm really likes. So it's a story he knows fairly well enough to kind of try and, figure it out. Obviously, Gil is like, all right, no, get you out here. But then as Idris is moving the body, there's a landmine underneath. Like Malcolm goes straight into action. He puts his hands on it. They move the body. Everyone kind of clears out. And I love it. It's like that, we that squad. We got your back. Like the fact is Malcolm's telling everyone to leave, but they're like, no, we're not going to leave you in here by yourself. So and I love JT's like, all right, the only thing is keeping this bomb from going off is you. And I love Malcolm be like, yeah, it's a good thing I don't have like, a trimmer in my head or something. And then I love Gil being like, you're making a joke now? It's like, well, that's Malcolm for you. And so basically he's like, all right, like the fact of the matter is, all right, he's basically running down, telling everyone what to do. JT, you do this. Gil, you look into this. Danny, she's like, yeah. And he's like, never mind. At that moment, I was like, I have a thought about what that is, but we'll get back to that later. And it's like, no, I got this. I got a plan. And he's like, do I have a plan? No, I don't have a plan, but I think of a plan. Lo and behold, his dad calls and he picks up, which is interesting because I kept wondering the entire time, like, he hadn't had that conversation with his dad, because I meant to talk about the opening to this was crazy because it's like Malcolm visiting his dad and his dad having nightmares, because I guess because in that time since the whole John situation, Malcolm hasn't visited him in all that time. And so he was kind of getting worried, like his mind. It's so interesting because he always seems like he's so in control, but when it comes to Malcolm, he does lose control a little bit. And so the fact of the matter is, in his mind, he was thinking Malcolm was like done with him, never coming back, and he actually had a nightmare about it. I thought was kind of interesting. But this time when he actually calls Malcolm, Malcolm's actually like, oh, explaining the situation, and he's like, oh, really? That's so interesting. And he's like, well, gotta call you back later. And then like after he hangs up, I love Martin being like, oh, I should have said I love you. Oh, damn. Messed up. So I was so curious to see how Malcolm was going to escape this. He grabs the gun, shoots open the window, jumps out the window, lands on Gil's car. And I love that that's literally, it's like, oh yeah, there was nothing to salvage from the scene is what Danny was saying later on. And Gil was like, could you please just not say that? And JT was like, but sir, it's just a car. He's like, don't stop. Just stop. It's like, you could tell Gil was so hurt about losing his car. That was such a beautiful moment. Literally, that's Under Pressure was playing the entire time too. I love it. It was just a perfect sequence of events that I really love. I love at the same time, while Malcolm is solving the case, and we'll kind of get to that soon enough, there was that whole situation with Martin kind of going through therapy and stuff like that, because he was like, I thought, my son was dead, and I was in a dark place. It hard cuts to him screaming when he was in solitary, like when he so like what happened actually happened. Like the fact of the matter is, I thought he was faking it just because of everything with the whole John situation. It's like, no, the thought of Malcolm dying really devastated him, so he kind of had a breakdown, but he's like, no, I'm better. He's like, I'm back. I'm good. That was even something he had said to Malcolm, being like, hey, Malcolm, I'm back. And it's like, oh, interesting. Because Malcolm had actually been ignoring his calls until that moment. Because even later on, Gil was like, wait, you answer the phone on your dad? Like, especially under those circumstances, why? He never explained why. I'll kind of throw out a theory about it later on. Hopefully I remember to bring that point up. But I love that, like, it's like, all right, so basically it's like, well, I'd like to kind of work on this whole situation. So if I could, Martin's like, if I could practice Hector, and Hector's like, no. He's like, I'm always Malcolm. And it's like, and he's like, but you embody it so well. And he's talking, and then, like, Hector's just kind of going with the flow of things. And he's just like, I love you, son. And Hector's like, And the guy leading the thing is kind of like nudging him, being like, go ahead, do it. He's like, nah. And Martin's like, say it. It's important. He's like, I love you too. And then it's just kind of like, Martin kind of gets what he wants. It was such a weird situation. But nevertheless, Martin ends up calling Malcolm, but Gil's like, no. We're going to handle this as a team. He's going to talk to all of us. And it's like, really? And then, like, it's like, Gil's like, is this a good idea? Probably not. But it's happening, and it's like, oh, I even love Martin be like, oh my God, what? The whole team, oh look at this. The whole team's together. And then I forgot what it was. JT makes some remark, and then Martin was like, who said that? And JT was like, nobody. I love that. It's like, Gil, and Gil, was that you? And then Danny says something. He's like, oh, is that a female officer, detective involved in all of this? And then Malcolm immediately hangs up the phone because, like, I think the last thing he wants is dad kind of saying anything connected to Danny, because I think out of anyone, he's very, obviously, like, he cares a lot about Danny because she is kind of like his only friend. So he's, like, super protective of her. At the same time, there's this big wedding that's going down because there's like a big family. The dude, main dude in this case, his name's Kel. Like, his family is well off, and the fact of the matter is, it's an opportunity for Jessica to join the social scene again because she kind of disappeared from it because of the whole Martin situation. So she's going to this event and everything, and she's kind of lighting up because it feels good because it was something that she enjoyed, but that limelight, that social circle, something, like I said, because of Martin, she kind of had to lose. So, but obviously they're investigating, like, Connors and this dude, what's his name, Voight, that's connected to him. But then there's like a whole bunch of swords and stuff. Malcolm positions himself, and he's like, no, don't worry. Like, when the wires get cut, I'm gonna catch the sword. He's like, I'm like, I was like the 2-time silver axe thrower or something like that. And I love Gil has to be silver. He almost kind of like, hey, silver's good, but I guess it's like, well, in the situation where a man's life is at stake, gold would be better, So it is an interesting process of just like doing the blades coming down, Malcolm stopping them at each turn, except for when the last one came. Like, Malcolm got like the second to last one, but he tripped the final wire. Luckily, JT came in for the save. I was like, yo, that was tight. I was like, that's pretty impressive, because it turns out that the reason why all of this, the Count, Monte Cristo, this whole thing is because basically there was a girl named Isabella. She was on a ship that Kel was on, but he was kind of high at the time. The ship crashed. They tried to blame it on her, like, oh, the daughter of the cook stole the boat, crashed it, she drowned and died. Well, it turns out in actuality it was all covered up because Kel was the one that was actually driving the boat and everything. So basically Connors controlled the police and everything and got them to not look into the investigation. And Voight kind of paid off people, made the money transfers and stuff like that to make that stuff happen. So that's what this is all about. So obviously the number one suspect is Ernesto, her father. I even love at the same time Malcolm's dodging his mom, being like, oh yeah, I'm enjoying the vacation. She's like, I know, you sound so happy. He's like, yeah, I'm about to go join a conga line. And it's and his mom was looking weird. I even love later on, she's like, I knew it. There's no way you're going to join a conga line. That's so not you. But nevertheless, but they show up at the party, and they end up finding Ernesto and arresting him because he did somehow find his way back into the country and everything. I did think something was interesting because it's like, well, Kel's father kind of joins the whole situation of being like, oh, like, my son, like, almost kind of like, why are you dredging up something from the past like that? And he's threatening because it's like, oh, the police chief or captain is going to be here and I'll get you removed. But it's like, no, we know exactly what went down and what this is all about, because it's like, we're trying to help you. He's kind of being a dick about like accepting their help and everything. It's like, you act like this place is so fortified. This place used to be an illegal, like there used to be secret pathways and stuff like that for bootleggers back in the day when it came to alcohol and stuff like that. So it's like, maybe someone who worked here so long, like Isabel's dad Ernesto the cook, who might know the more ins and outs of this place. So luckily they were able to catch him. Obviously for Malcolm, it's like, it doesn't seem like it works too well. Like he feels like there's more to this whole Ernesto situation, but Gail's still trying to rush him out, take him to go to vacation. So Danny's going to drop him off. But I love that, obviously, who ends up having a heart-to-heart with Malcolm? None other than Danny. So for her, it's like, why are you so invested in these cases? Almost like you do enjoy these cases, like you can never shut your brain off. And the reason is because for him, he's like, because working cases keeps him distracted. Because if he's not it's kind of almost like similar to Elementary, if you're unaware, this CBS Sherlock Holmes show. Essentially, he had heroin addiction, so to kind of work cases was his way to kind of deal with it. And Malcolm kind of has a similar thing, because when there's too much quiet in his head, it turns into like, a nightmare movie. And it turns out like, obviously, like and it turns out Danny's a part of it. Like, I think that's very particular because it feeds into the fact is, once again, he likes Danny, and it ends up putting someone he cares about the most in that situation, but he finds himself trapped in it and all of that. So, but now that kind of explains like why like the yoga and stuff didn't work for him, because it was too quiet and it starts getting his mind rushing, which I can kind of get, because I get those moments too where like your mind will start, like the synapses in your head will start firing off. You'll think about one thing which leads to another thing. It's like, I don't want to think about that, but the more, it's like the Inception thing. When I tell you not to think about elephants, what do? You think about elephants. So it's kind of that thing, like my brain kind of operates like that, so I can only assume his works like that on a much more horrifying degree. But it's like, okay, so what are we going to do? And Malcolm's like, well, I've got a really bad idea. And they go visit Martin. So that was really interesting. It's like, oh, it's my point and everything. And so I was surprised by that conversation, being like, yeah, John told me about the camping trip, that the fact of the matter is, it was after I found out about the body and everything. It's like, oh yeah, John has a wild imagination that you're going to kill me. And then even Danny was like, what, wait, what? Because obviously all of this is stuff being dropped that he hasn't talked to anyone on the team about, let alone Danny. And I thought it was this neat moment of like his dad being like, no, of course not. The fact that I would never do something like that. I've done a lot, but I've never do something like that. It's like, the fact of the matter is, if I wanted to kill you, I would have. Now that's the thing. So, and the fact is, and that's what I was thinking earlier, it's like, the fact is, if Martin was so devastated thinking that John killed his son, that makes you think, well, maybe John was just messing with Malcolm's head saying that, or maybe because John believed that because Martin told him that, because, I mean, who knows, maybe I don't think it's that. I was about to say, like, not unless the real truth is he was planning on killing Paul, that actually, in actuality, it was meant to be a test for Malcolm to kill Paul. So maybe the reason why things working out the way they did actually kind of worked out the way Martin wanted them to. Maybe it's a situation that Martin said all that to kind of orchestrate the situation, because he was hoping that it'd be a situation like, if it kind of went sideways, he would have killed John, but he was kind of hoping that Malcolm did. And at the end of the day, Malcolm ended up protecting himself and stabbing John. So it's kind of like, maybe it worked out. I don't know. Martin had made a point that he was going to try and be a little bit more open going forward and everything. More open about conversations about, or at least, during the, act out with Hector. So I just thought that in general was really interesting, but obviously it's kind of, we'll see whether there's more to that or not. But Danny was like, all right, let's focus on the case. And the ins and outs of the case, it does seem like Ernesto, he checks all the boxes, but then Martin brings up the dramatic angle, because obviously when you look at these cases, like, Ernesto doesn't have that dramatic flair. Where's the romance? Like, obviously orchestrated by all this. It's like, maybe it's the romance between, like, the relationship between a father and son. They were saying that Keller wanted to kill his father because it's like, yeah, like, the fact of the matter is he's had to live this life that his father built for him, and it also included not being with the woman that he loved, and in fact his dad covered it all up, and now it's forcing you to marry someone that maybe you don't necessarily feel that way about, so it's enough to potentially make him snap. And even I forgot forgot what the term, what he said exactly, but I think he was like, maybe I'm just, God, what was it he said? Martin was like, maybe I'm just projecting, and he says that looking at Malcolm, and Malcolm's kind of staring back at him. So it's kind of like, okay, so they decide they're going to, go to the, crash the wedding and stuff like that. And I love Martin had started like quoting the story, and he's like, oh, come on, you guys. And then he's like, and it's like, because Danny's like, am I not going to get in there looking like this? And Martin was like, oh, you can get her something really nice for me. You go on, you kids, you two kids. Have fun. I'm like, I love like the psychotic fun that is Martin. Like he adds like this very twisted comedic element that makes him even more psychotic. But obviously, Danny is very dressed up and everything. Even she looks fantastic in her dress, and you can tell like Malcolm is just this like starstruck as well. And I thought it was this beautiful moment of, she was also like, Danny was like, oh, also earlier you were bringing up something about like, when you thought you were going to blow up and everything, you were going to say something. He's like, oh no, it has something to do with the investigation. It's like, nah, you like her. And because the thing is, Malcolm's afraid. Because for one, Danny's the first friend he's ever really had. I mean, and probably ever since this whole thing with his dad, he's never really had any friends, just because he's so kind of messed up. It's kind of hard to really keep up relationships. So I'm sure he doesn't want to compromise it there. But also the last time he kind of got intimate with someone, it didn't end well. And obviously that was something that was kind of flashing in his head earlier in the episode too. So I'm thinking that's probably like what's pushing him to keep him from saying how he feels about Danny. Because it's like, yeah, he likes Danny. And I think Danny likes him too. Like, I think it is like something that is reciprocated. So it's like, so I think that's actually kind of sweet. And I love that his mom finds him. It's like, oh, this is about a case or something. Well, you do look all happy and stuff. And she's like, well, fine, just don't embarrass me. And I love when Malcolm gets on the mic later on, and the lady that's sitting beside Jessica is like, do you know that man? It's like, I don't think I do. It's hard to say, I'm so far away. And she's just kind of looking so embarrassed. I also love that, like, as they were walking by at one point, the lady, and you can see Jessica's like, yes, I had no idea my husband was a serial killer. Oh, do you have that? It's like, people, of course, that's going to be the number one question. So it's kind of like, oh, the whole, she's exasperated because she thought like, oh, maybe something would be different. It's like, oh, it's been the past 20 years. Oh, no, that's all anyone's ever going to talk to me about. So there's that whole, situation. So, but basically they ended up figuring out that Kel wasn't the one behind this, because they started realizing like, what? There was no body. When it came to Isabel, no body was found. Because for Kel, it's like he wanted to go save Isabel. He felt like if we looked, we could have potentially found her. But his dad's the one that kind of put a kibosh on that. Because she was never welcomed in his world. Because like it's like, a status situation of like, oh, she was never going to be good enough for you type of situation. So, but now that's kind of been the driving force for Isabel, because she's the one that's actually alive and she's been the one behind all this. And so Malcolm being on the mic and saying all this stuff, it's like, it's like, oh, what was his name? George and your wife. But the fact of the matter is that's fathers for you. They always they try to do what's best for their children. Never realizing the fact is, but they make mistakes. That not everything they do is right for their children. Obviously, he was speaking about George and Cal, but also, about his own particular situation. But luckily, when it all came down to it, he's trying to stop Isabella when she actually shows up, because he's like, when it's all said and done, you don't need to kill. None of them are worth it. I forgot what one of the things was. It's like you only need two things. It's something and hope. Trying to make her see that this revenge it's not going to fix anything, and they're not worth it for all the pain they cause. But she still tries to fire her. Luckily, Malcolm, second time acting heroic in this episode. First the bomb, and now this bullet situation. Luckily, Danny comes and takes her down, and it's like, it's like when it's all said and done, George should be in cuffs too. And you see the look between Cal and Isabella, and it's just like, because that was a point that Malcolm was making. He was like, oh, this cover-up, it was a tragic situation that didn't have to happen. It's a tragedy that didn't have to happen. So, but luckily, I love it. And it's just like, the lady's like, oh my God, you're a hero. Who are you? And he's like, Malcolm, I'm Jessica Whitley's son. And she's like, yes. She's like, yes. And she's so proud of him in that moment. And she's like, let's get out of here, honey. She's like, look at you. You're so happy working cases and stuff like that. So that's your happy place. So it's fine. It's let's get out of here. And I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. And then the thing on the outside I thought was super adorable was the whole Ainsley situation where it gets revealed that Ainsley actually set it up so her mom, she's the one that kind of used her, her clout to kind of get her mom up, back. Because it's like all those people at that table were media people. So, and Ainsley's like kind of like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But it's like, was mom happy? It's like, yeah, she was very happy. You did a good thing. So it was nice, They both kind of ended up helping their mom. Might not have been kind of what she expected, but I think it ended up being a better night than she was kind of hoping for. So she kind of walks away from this night. It's like, yeah, not only did my son save the day and he's a hero, she kind of gets to enjoy that a little bit too. So I thought that was pretty neat. So that was nice. And then at the end, it's like, Whitley being like, oh man, that was a great program. What should we watch next? I'm like, dude. Like I said, this is like I said, there's like, I feel weird because the fact is I find some of the like psychotic wackiness funny, and I feel weird. I'm like, what does that say about me? That the fact of the matter is like some of the, but I think there's meant to be a little dark levity to it. It's kind of crazy, but maybe that just whatever the case may be. Some very interesting developments. Obviously, no vacation for Malcolm, just going back to work because that is his vacation to a certain extent, which obviously it's a deeper underlining, issue. Right. I totally remembered a point I was going to make earlier, and I was going to circle back to, but I kind of forgot about the whole point I was making about like Malcolm, like not wanting the quiet in his head and stuff like that. That might be why he answered the phone with his dad, because obviously there's the whole thing about, do you want to murder? You wanted to murder me thing, but I think it's also because his dad, like, there's still that thing of like, it's kind of like, for him, his dad was important to him. His dad was kind of like, especially because he's thinking about like, like you read me these stories and stuff like that. So he's kind of flipped back to remembering the good about his dad, because the fact is, once again, even if his dad was trying to or was going to kill him, he didn't. So that kind of speaks volumes. But part of me also thinks maybe hearing his dad's voice, because it's almost like, even if I were to potentially die, it's sad that in a twisted way, I want you to be by my side, despite everything, because I still love you despite, all the craziness. But I also thought maybe it's kind of going back to the point he brought up with Danny, where he doesn't like the quiet and he needs something. He didn't want to be kind of quiet that moment to be quiet, so he needed his dad there to kind of steer stuff up in his head. Maybe not. It's most likely me, reaching, reaching for something that's not really there. Like I said, I'm reading too much into it, but that was just something that was kind of floating through my head. So, but regardless, I'm very interested to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.